Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Lookout Podcast. I'm joined by Randy Salcido. Did I say that right?
Yep, Salcido.
Salcido. I kind of messed it up, man, but you got a very nice last name. Wildland Firefighter, graduate of the Trapper Creek Job Corps, and Native American from the, I wrote this one down. I just closed it on me. Tohono. Oh, dude, I'm going to let you do it.
The Tohono tribe from Arizona, or you can just call them the Tio. Or Papago is another name.
Papago.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha. So Papago, same tribe as you?
Very similar. Pretty closely related, yeah. But the Tohono people, it's O'odham in our language means people, and then Tohono just means desert. So the translation is just desert people.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah. And then there's the Hiarcha O'odham, which is like the river people. So it's like a northern kind of portion of our tribe.
Oh, cool, man. You guys intermingle like normal, trade and stuff, I guess.
Kind of, yeah.
Historically,
they're kind of their own entity. But the Tohono Nation is like its own thing on the southern end, and then the Hiarcha O'odham are kind of more closer to like Mesa area.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture all that. I kind of know it roughly. I haven't spent too much time in southern Arizona, and so pretty desert like where you're from. Then you're saying, hey?
Yeah. No, where I'm from, it's a lot of brush, greasewood trees. Kind of closer to the Coronado area.
Oh,
so
yeah.
right on the border of Mexico. So my house is like a 10-minute walk from the border. And the border where I'm from is just a dinky little metal gate.
Oh, really?
Like a fence, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just these metal poles with like a very small fencing on it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's not very hard to cross. Yeah.
No, yeah, people just hop back and forth, go over to Mexico, get some good food, and come back.
Yeah. No, it's not close to any towns in Mexico where I'm at, but if you go more south towards like a Gila Bend area, you can get to Rocky Point, which is like a big tourist attraction down there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, not right now. It'd be kind of tough going back and forth, but I bet back in the past it was probably kind of nice. You just like cruise down and pick up, whatever supplies you might want, like, or just go out and get some other food and come back, to your home. And and then you were telling me about a cactus fruit that I'd never heard about.
Oh yeah, Baidoch. Yeah, it's a saguaro cactus fruit, and I think that's the only place in the world you can get it because that's the only place where the saguaro grow.
Oh man!
So it's pretty incredible to be from a place where that has that one of a kind thing. I think it's kind of hard not to take it for granted when you grow up there. Because a lot of people don't really leave that area, so I don't think it crosses a lot of people's minds to appreciate like what's in front of you there.
Yeah, totally, man. That's I was just talking to my little brother about this morning because we're from Whitehall, Montana, which is small, and we were just talking about like all these country songs. They're especially some of the newer ones where like it's kind of guilting somebody from leaving town. It's usually like the dude who's in town. And he's like a girl left to go follow her dreams, and I'm just here, drinking in my hometown. Like, probably not a good thing, Like you should get out there and enjoy life, and also it gives you more. Like a better view of your hometown. Like when I go back to Whitehall, we have Frontier Days, our big thing every summer in Whitehall. And man, I go back and I see all like friends and family, and I get the warm fuzzies, and I just like, man, the mountains, everything's just better, right? I'm like, oh, it's so cool. I'm so lucky that this is, is my hometown. Do you have that a little bit too going home?
Yeah, no, I go back to the res and like, I enjoy being there a lot more now because I'm not actually like stuck there.
Yeah,
I think growing up, I kind of always felt like that wasn't really like my place, because I grew up in the heart of the res. Like my village has maybe like, I don't know, max like 400 people, but like definitely way less than that. I'm just like, when I grew up, I could name everyone that lived there. Is the amount of people that lived there, so very, very desolate in the desert. Like I was telling you, grew up in an adobe house that my dad built, and there was no opportunity out there to do anything new, and everyone was kind of like very like cliquish,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
did you get like a little bit of this? Because I've seen this in some small communities where it's almost like if you are striving, it's almost like they're trying to kind of kick you down a little bit. Like, what are you doing over there, man? Like,
Yeah, a little bit. That's kind of like just like the from what I experienced, like the thing to do on the res is just like if you're not like with us, then we don't like you at all. And so like growing up, I was adopted, so I just looked way different when I was young. I mean, obviously now I got like a little bit more of a brown tone to me, but when growing up, I was super, super light skinned. And so they already didn't like me for that. But then because of how different I was and like the way I spoke, Like I don't have any, I guess just like the native kind of accent. You know how like people think that the natives talk like in the movies and stuff.
Yeah.
They're always depicted as that, but like when you're actually like on the res, it's like way different. There is an accent, but it's not like how it is in the movies.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot stronger. I mean, and everyone always plays around with it. You know, you see
Mhm.
like a bunch of my native buddies that they'll have that little like native tongue. You know,
Yeah.
just kind
Yeah.
of messing around. It's funny, but yeah, it's I could see that though, not having like the accent around there. You know,
Mhm.
and like even some of the guys that I've known from the Crow Res have a little bit of an accent. You know, and you could tell like they're from the reservation typically around there, or at least they grew up in a household that kind of had that accent. You get in Montana too, like northern ranch folks,
Mhm.
kind of a little different accent than like some of the southern folks, or even southeast a little bit,
Yeah, and it goes even further than just like an accent too. Like there's like certain vernacular that a lot of
Oh,
different tribes use, or like
yeah,
there'll be
yeah,
certain words that mean certain things to people or different tribes. You know,
yeah,
it's just like I think it's just like any small community, you develop your own sort of like language. The weird thing for me growing up is that like everyone else around me like spoke like that, and even some of my family kind of have twinges of that. So I don't know like the reasoning why I didn't grow up and like develop that accent because it was all of my surrounding. You know,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
very strange.
You think you kind of adopt it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, my mom moved to Alabama when I was young, and so like my stepdad and everybody, and my stepbrother and everybody had really strong accents, and
Mm-hmm.
I go down there all summer, and I don't think I ever like. I mean, I guess maybe it's not long enough, but be down there for like 3 months, and didn't develop anything. And my mom had like a light one, but not really, and
Mm-hmm.
her husband and most people she's hanging out with pretty heavy drawl.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's strange, but some people pick it up I think right away. Like I see some people go like tour, like was it like a overseas program, for
Mm.
college, like semester abroad or whatever, and they come back and usually got a little bit of a, like
Yeah.
I knew someone who went to New Zealand and they had a little bit of like a Kiwi accent, and then
Yeah.
someone who came back from England, and wasn't too heavy, but you could hear it a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know, my brain just doesn't seem to pick that stuff up either.
Yeah.
I've never read that. Yeah, and then so the history of your folks, did they migrate there a little bit, or like what? I meant to ask you the other day, like how'd they end up in southern Arizona? Is there like an origin story, I guess?
So you're saying like the people themselves, or you're talking about like my parents?
Yeah, the people, like your tribe.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It's from Arizona to southern or into Mexico. That's kind of where our tribe was at. So just that area.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of always been where they were at.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
So
Yeah, I was just curious because I've heard a few different, like legends, I guess, of origin stories. Like I'm Nez Perce, and so the story, and I'm probably gonna mess this up, so apologies. But there's a story about this like darkness monster. It's actually not too far from here. Do you know about this one?
mm-mm.
Yeah, up Highway 12. I think it's actually on the Idaho side, so going like not too far from Kuski, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been meaning to go there, and I think there's like a marking of like you can go visit and check it out. And so like there's this darkness, and it wasn't allowing, or so there's nothing except for this darkness, this like beast thing,
Mm-hmm.
and a coyote came and was like the savior of the Nimipu, the Nez Perce,
Mm-hmm.
and the coyote defeated this darkness, and from the blood of his tooth dripped to the ground, and that's how the Nez Perce, the Nimipu, came to be. And I'm leaving out a lot of the story, I think, but it's been a while since I read it. Right? So, but it's just a cool origin story, And then I heard like I think it was the Hopis have kivas, I think, right? And they believe that their people came from like in the ground and out of the kiva, like this hole in the ground, and like one of the ceremonial dwellings. I think I'm getting that right. Apologies, but folks can look it up, so they can get the better story. So this will just be a little teaser for them to actually research and get someone who knows the story better. But I ran into this fella on a fire just south of Sedona, and I want to say his name is Jason Nez, but he's an archaeologist for the Grand Canyon, and so he gave me a little background on like the Hopi and the Apache and all the folks around that area from like Sedona South, and then there's all those little mesas and cave dwellings and stuff, and man, it was so cool because we're at one of them that not too many people knew about, and he like, I don't know, he got a good vibe off us. He's like, I gotta show you something that no one really knows about, and there was a ranch there or something, so they knew about it, but they didn't tell anybody because they didn't want either the government to come take their land or a bunch of tourists on their land.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a recent rediscovery, I guess, and so he showed us and kind of showed us some of the paintings, and it was like really cool. It showed like hunters and dressed up in like some kind of camouflage, herding some animal, some horned animal, and then it showed like some other folks that had looked like bow and arrows that were like waiting for whatever animal they were herding, probably deer or something. But it was cool. But then also he painted the picture of what the valley looked like, and he's like, we always kind of picture like what the movies kind of make it look like these smaller tribes kind of traveling around. But he's like, this was a pretty vast area with a lot of trade coming through here, and different tribes like the Hopi and the Apache, I think he said, and maybe somebody else. And I was like, wow, it's super cool, like the picture. And it was a little more lush valley, I think, when they were there versus now it's more of that desert country and a little less hospitable, I guess I'd say.
That's something that I realized, like people that aren't super familiar with like just Native American culture in general, is they always expect you to know about these other tribes and their history, but it's like I don't think people realize like how separate tribes are, where it's like, me being from Arizona, I'm not going to know anything about like the Crow people here, or just like, it's just like I think people just don't put that connection together.
Well, even probably all the way north, like the Hopis and stuff. We talked a little bit before that, but like unless you were engaging with them or had some kind of lesson or your own curiosity, right? Like there's no reason to really know. For me, it was a little easier because I went to college in Billings, so I interacted with got a few buddies from the Crow, that I played basketball with in MSUB, and then so I got to talk to them a little bit, and then my buddy Black Lunick is one of the Blackfeet Indians, and so I get to learn his culture. He actually schooled me up a little bit on my tribe a little bit because I didn't know about these Appaloosa horses.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Appaloosa horses, but I didn't really know the origin story, and he talked about that a little bit on the podcast, and that was super cool. So
yeah, it is cool.
Yeah, and I mean, but my family got separated from the tribe way back when, and ended up on this weird little pseudo reservation in Great Falls. So like I don't have any connection to the reservation right now, or like any history. Like I don't know how my bloodline connects back in. I just know that I'm Nez Perce, and which is cool to me. I'm happy to just have that.
I think that's really all it like matters. Is like I don't know, like you feel like it's like your home kind of thing, because that's how it is for me. Like same like being adopted, but I'm sure that there is like thorn out them in there somewhere. But growing up in like the heart of the res and like spending my entire life there up until I was 16, it's like what else makes you that tribe at that point? It was like I've spent my whole entire life to that point with those people and around those people and doing things and ceremonies, and that was my tradition, and they taught me the cultures and like all the values of being from that tribe. So there's nobody can tell me that that's not what I am.
Yeah,
it's like I feel like a lot of people don't really have that experience.
There are that connection, especially like more I guess modern day humans, are sort of removed from wherever they were from, especially in the U.S., right? Like, they migrated here from somewhere, a lot of folks, and sometimes it was like, they're kind of shamed. I think even the Irish got shamed when they first got here. So like you want to drop your culture and pick up the new world culture, and a lot of it got swept under the rug and maybe not ever brought up again. So like one of my friends who, at least I hope this is a story, but Charlie Palermo's the soup of the Helena Hotshots, and he was telling me that he doesn't really know what his last name is because his family's from Palermo, and they couldn't speak English when they first came over in the boat. So all I could say was Palermo. So they're like, okay, Mr. Palermo, and then that's how his name ended up being. And I think that was pretty common, So it's like, I think maybe he knows now, but like originally I think he didn't know what his like original last name was because he was gonna head to Italy, I think is where he's from, and try to track down some family, And then even me, my other side is Irish, and Barrett's my last name, and my brother tracked down a little bit, but I didn't know anything really about them, and their kind of tribal culture too, like with druids and all this other super cool, like earthy, similar to Native American traditions. And I mean, like the Solstice is a big deal in Ireland. Like, have you seen the it's, I don't know what's it called. It's like a shrine, but it's like a shrine. Can't think of a better name for it. But you've seen it? It's like a little rock hut that's built, and it's like so perfect that it still lines up like perfectly with the solstice. So when the sun goes down, it hits through like this window and shines in this room, and it's like the only time that it happens. I'm butchering that too. It's better than that, but it's like this cool like ceremonial ground, and built who knows when. I mean, like a long time ago. I don't think they have like an exact date on it, but super old structure and just part of the solstice celebration. And I think, like me and you were talking, when we were guarding roads, that that stuff's important, I think, man. Like to have those traditions and celebrate more things, like throughout life, especially like winter solstice. Like that's a. I think we're doing a better job, especially the ski bum community that celebrates winter solstice.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of us need to kind of get on board because it's good, man. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of dread winter solstice because it's like, oh, darkest day of the year,
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, but it's changing. It's cool. It's something else different.
Yeah. I think talking about keeping those cultures, the biggest thing and the hardest part is that the people that you need to teach that stuff are usually younger people, but when you're young, that stuff doesn't really like seem like cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when you're young, it's like I think we need more people that are like doing cool things that are also like native to be like telling people like, yeah, I mean, like appreciate your heritage, but getting it across in a way where it's not like embarrassing, because I think as a kid, like you just want to like fit in with like the people that you like idolize, which normally is like, well, I don't even know what it's like nowadays, but it's idolizing people that you see on like media or like things like that. And so the people that they look up to aren't speaking about native things, or like people don't even like realize like that reses are like still a thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
totally.
like people were pushed to these spots and like told to just like settle there and live there, so that way we can get these areas that are like thriving. But you guys like get these desolate spots,
Totally, man.
So, but yeah, I think people just don't realize that. So like having like a figure of someone to be like telling people about how important it is to maintain that culture and to take it seriously, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no getting it back.
Yeah, that is a fear of mine, and has been since I was in college, I think, or maybe even before. Because there really isn't that many of us left. Like I think when I looked it up, and I'm probably wrong on this number, so apologies, but I think it was like 3,000, 4,000 people on the Nez Perce Reservation, just this one right here. And it was like, man, that's a small number. Compared to what we used to be. And yeah, so it's like. Yeah, and I think we were talking about it a little bit about like the blood quantum and stuff, and I heard there were some tribes pushing back on that and trying to get some change, so that otherwise we're all going to get diluted. Like I don't have enough to be a tribal member. I think it's a quarter blood to be Nez Perce, and I'm an eighth, so I don't have enough to make it there. So, which is unfortunate. And I'm not looking for like the money part of it. I just would like to be like part of the team.
Yeah. Well, just be like appreciated for the things that like you also appreciate. Like I was saying, like I feel like it only matters like is if you have that connection, like like I said, growing up there, doing that stuff like that, and just even wanting to be a part of the community and just having some sort of like I mean you're not whatever the blood quantum that they want, but you're still that's still who you are.
Totally, man.
So it's just kind of weird for anybody to tell people who they are and what they are.
Yeah, box people in.
Yeah,
like no, man. Like, and me and you, I think are good about that too. Like we talked about it before, and what you talked about in the beginning of the podcast is like you had aspirations and you came from somewhere else, and you always kind of knew you were going to go do something else. And same with me as a kid, but I always, man, was curious about other people, and I'm like, oh, what's that about? Oh, maybe I should be doing that. Like the only thing I've ever was like a little weird about was yoga at first, because I was like, I don't know about yoga, if that's like something that's gonna like benefit me. And then I did hot yoga, and I was like, oh, all right, yeah, there's something here, Yeah. So I think it's important, and I think back in the day, I heard stories of like colonial Europeans who landed here, way back when, and didn't like. I mean, they were escaping, England, a lot of them, and then they weren't liking the rules there, and then they probably were looking for more freedom, and I heard. Quite a few were bailing out, trying to jump in, in some of the tribes that they could get into. And you didn't ever hear it the other way, I heard. It wasn't like a lot of Indians trying to get into, the colonial areas and, join the other team. So, and so it sounded like, at least to me, when I heard that story, it sounded like it was a little more accepting. And I feel like we're getting back to it. Like I saw something on the news and maybe read something about one of the big powwows. I can't remember if it was in Billings or the Arlene one, that was like, hey, like we want to make sure we get the word out. Everyone's invited. This is a community event. We want everybody. We don't care where you're from, what your story is. Just you come join us, and there's gonna be drumming and dancing, and feel free to jump in on it. And I was like, that's great. That's the message I want to get out too. I was like, share it. Like cultures are better when you share them, especially when you have a good culture. Get to get more people involved and enjoy it. And appreciate it.
It's for any culture too. Like even people that are like. I think everyone has something to offer and they don't have to be from any specific culture. Like it's just someone from like a suburban neighborhood. Like just people in general always have something to offer, and I think that's like one of the key factors of like at least like my tribe was just like, you know, it's all about like a community, and you can build community in anything. Like even seeing fire, like fire becomes its own community. Like today, you know, hanging out with the entire crew, it's, you know, we all come from different backgrounds, but we share this thing, the Trapper Creek logo, and you become almost like a family, like a tight knit community, and we're all always there for each other. And that's a big thing that I felt like powwows. You know, we talked about like how open they are, and the reason that they sing the songs that way is because people can from any community can come and sing along, because there's no like they're not in any one language, you know, most of the time. And so
yeah, like yeah, you're kind of saying like, you know, most of them aren't really any words too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just more I guess like vocal singing, I guess, kind of, you know, and most people can probably, well, what we're talking about can kind of hear it, you know, and like, which, you know, it takes a lot of guts, you know, especially if you're like some super white person trying to, you know, like going to get involved, but like, man, if you can get out of your comfort zone a little bit and jump out there, you know, and even maybe you're just gonna go there look the first year, maybe go try to join in the next year, you know, baby step it, but definitely worth getting involved in, because like you said, build a community, and I feel like a lot of our tribal nations are more connected with like a little bit more earth and life and stuff, and I think on a grand scale we're trying to kind of get back to it too, like as you see with all our stuff push for the Forest Service and environmental things that are, you know, in the news now, so like have been in the news, I guess, but I mean, that's kind of stuff that tribal folks were already concerned about forever, you know, taking care of the land, you know, the original like stewards of the land, you know.
It's hard to at least I feel for me it's hard to like maintain that connection with my tribe, just because I'm not there, you know. I'm all the way out in Montana, and there's no other Altum out here, so, you know, I don't have anyone to like remind me to do these things or to do ceremonies with, and it's just myself out here. So trying to maintain that connection, like I said, sometimes I forget, you know, that because all that stuff feels like a whole previous life, just because I've been out here so long. It's like your fire just like takes a hold of you, and it makes it that become your life.
Yeah,
it's hard to focus on anything else.
It really does. Like you know, this was the first full year I think I was out of fire, and it did feel like all of a sudden like I transformed into like almost like a different human, because year round, man. I mean, watching the weather patterns and you know, being available for Region 8, so it's like it wasn't really like a switch I would be shutting off, you know, like as in most people think seasonal firefighter, but which it was back in the day, but once you get involved, like where you're at, and probably have been probably most of your career, huh? Like available to go down south or wherever in the off season.
No, we go out to the east, you know, Ohio, Missouri, Mississippi. Like we always go out there.
North Carolina too, right?
Yep. And so, you know, nowadays I get laid off, you know, around this time, and then come back in February. So like, you get that little break, but it's always like the first like 3 weeks you're like, man, I'm really glad not to be doing anything. But like, you know, sometimes like sometime in that third week you're like when do I go back to work? You know?
Yeah.
It's just like you're missing that part of your life where, you know, you think you want this big break from it, but, you know, as soon as you get a little time not doing it, you know, it's kind of just like chomping at the bit to go back out again and do things. I think it's just like a lot of what I like about it is that you can progress every year and always learn from other people. Like this year was a big year, I think, just for our entire crew in general. Big learning year, seeing a lot of different things. For me, it was seeing more of the side of like being like a supervisor and like not just like swinging a tool and like doing the hard work. You know, it's just like because this year I opened my crew boss task book, and so I had a lot of crew boss trainee assignments. But yeah, taking that step to like get the logistics and like find meals for 20 people and find, you know, hotel rooms for all these people, and like make sure we get a good product done, and like talking to all these like AFMOs and people from different agencies that we're tying in with, and like all this side of things. And then, you know, with the Trapper Job Corps, the paperwork side of like doing these casual hire forms for everyone, we get like say we had like 10 students and we get on 5 IAs out in Arizona. That's like 50 sheets of casual hire forms to do. Like one for each IA for each student. So it's just like, that kind of stuff, you know. It's like the nights that you spend at the hotel room doing the crew boss stuff that you're not on the clock for.
Yeah, man.
So gave me a big appreciation for my supervisors before me, you know,
totally
doing that stuff.
Yeah, and to tack onto that too, like you get the paperwork side of it, like the CTRs and then more, with the trapper students, and then also your brain doesn't shut off because you're like planning. Like you have more than 2 weeks typically if you're on assignment, of planning, and it's all on you for everything. Like you said, all the logistics, keeping your crew safe, keeping your crew busy, keeping your crew on a fire, like, and then, operationally too, if you have initial attack or whatever the assignment is for the day, and all the things. And then also trying to keep yourself from grabbing a saw or a tool and going to work, because that's a hard part too, especially as a new crew boss. Like I think everybody struggled with it, that, myself included, that when they first got in charge and some stuff be slowing down, I'd be like, I'll go cut that tree. It's like, no, man, you don't cut that tree, because you got to be available and be able to answer your radio and dive off if you have to talk to somebody or whatever, and but it's hard to shake it, once you when you're coming up in fire, and then you finally have to, like, put on the supervisor hat and not fight direct fire anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I've definitely found myself this year. I'd be away from the crew, and it just feels weird, man. It doesn't feel right, to be away from them. But I'd grab a saw and, like, give one of the other guys my radio and be like, just listen to this, and then I'll, like, tie in, work towards the crew, or like just trying to do things like that. But yeah, it's definitely hard to just not do anything, even though, like, you're doing things in your own right. It's just like, and it's a lot of things that people don't see, and I think that's what gets to me, is I don't want to appear to my crew like I'm not doing anything, Cause
totally.
Like, I don't know. I feel like we're all doing the same thing out there, and I don't want to appear like I'm, like, just sandbagging.
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. And that's a hard thing, especially with a crew like Trapper, like Type 2 crews and Type 2 IA crews. There's a lot of turnover, so it's, the shot crew, a lot of times folks are coming up in the crew the whole time, right? They were like the Type 2 person, just digger, then become maybe a lead saw, and then squad boss, and then foreman, and then, hotshot soup. Maybe not exactly that order, but you come up in the ranks. So, like, you worked with everybody. 90% of the crew has seen you work, know you can work, and know that you're a good worker. But you gotta take care of the supervisor stuff when you become the soup. But, like, in a Type 2 crew, it's like some of these young folks have never seen you work before, so they're like, "What's he doing?" They don't know how the organization works. And so it's like, But I think as a good supervisor, like you are, man, They get it. It's like, I wouldn't ask you to do something I wouldn't do, and that's what I always, like, kept with me, and I can see you're the same way,
Oh yeah.
And that's like picking up the saw. It definitely helps, man. Like you get those opportunities to jump in and help the crew out, man. It goes a long way. Carrying hose or whatever I could do. Like if I had a minute where I knew I didn't have to be talking to somebody or tying with somebody, it's like go grab some hose, and even if it was just rolling some up or what's it called when you grab the hose and butterflying it?
Butterflying hose.
Ooh, it's been so long, I lost it, man.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the engine stuff as much as I can.
Yeah,
but no, definitely have done a lot of pulling hose. One of the big things is, like, that I didn't realize was going to be such a giant piece of it is, like, maintaining your crew's just mentality wise, like making sure that, like, you're kind of dealing with all these people's little problems, like the bickering here and, like, the problems that people have with other people or with other crews around and, like, that kind of stuff. And it's like trying to maintain this, like, positive attitude for all 20 people. A lot of people management. So, like, doing cool things, like on a slow assignment, we went out to Arizona, and for the first couple of days there was nothing going on, so we did a little, like, scavenger hunt, and, like, had these, like, geographical features that people would have to look for as these two squads, and, like, who could find these, like, wildflowers or, like, these types of insects, and, like, the like just the type of topography that was out there, and, like, having them, like, take pictures and send that to us, at the end of the day, or, like, picking up trash, like, who could get the most trash. Things like that, where it's like, the sense of competition between the two squads, and it keeps people engaged, and it keeps them, from being like, we're just out here, like, doing nothing and, like, getting all upset because everyone wants to do things, And sometimes it's just, you just got to wait for a couple of days before something actually happens.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, especially if you're in between, or just like you said, waiting to engage something, or if you're there for an IA resource, like you might have those down days. And someone told me a long time ago, it was like a busy crew is a safe crew. It's the bored crew that's the unsafe. It's like, oh yeah, it's true. Start messing with each other and doing stupid human tricks, and someone cuts their hand or whatever happens, and and for morale, like you said, I mean, 2 weeks can be a long time away from home, and people got other lives, and like you said, like balancing that with them too. Like when something comes up and you're like, all right, what's going on, man? And knowing your crew enough to be like, walking up to that guy or gal and being like, hey, something's off. Let's take a little walk. Like, what's going on? Like, you need anything? Let me know. I'm here. Like that goes a long way. But knowing it, like knowing your crew enough to be like, like Brittany or Bill or whatever, it's like not themselves today, because you never know, man. They wake up and they get a bad phone call or text message, especially nowadays. Back in the day, you didn't have no one had phones, so it was just like, I'll tell you everything when I get back. But I mean, some outside source happens, like break up or lose somebody or whatever happens, back home, and then you gotta also be like, hey, do you need to leave, or are you good, like, and then make that happen. So there's a lot that goes into it for sure, man.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even just like the personal, like emotional aspect, but like a health aspect as well. Like when people are like digging, and it's like it's a guy that's just like a hard charger, and he's like, he can dig all day, and that he can dig. Or one day he's just like, going at a slower pace and just not looking as hot, and like, noticing it early on and being like, maybe you just need to sit down and sit in the shade for a bit. Catching those situations early on, that comes a lot with like knowing your crew too, and like. You just start to see someone slow down or just acting weird. I think you can kind of catch some of that stuff early on and prevent it from even getting to the point where you need to get them out of there.
Because then if you don't, like you said, you'll have a medical situation, and that could shut down the whole division or the whole operation, or even just your little operation if it's if it's not that bad a deal. But especially the hard chargers, sometimes it's like. I've done it too, like where I got behind the hydration curve, and I think it was Hondo, New Mexico, and it was 110 was the average, and go a little higher, a little lower throughout that 2-week assignment. But I had never fought fire in that, and I was cutting line, and I think 3 days in, I finally like bonked enough, like got behind the curve electrolytes, that like I ended up just getting like stuck to the saw while I was running it, because everything just locked up. And then I mean it was wild. It was like from my toes to my fingertips were starting to lock up on me, and I was kind of confused. I was like, what is going on? I never had this happen. I was a college athlete, and it dawned on me as soon as I got the saw to my hands. I was like, oh, I don't even know when the last time I had like a Gatorade or something was. I just been drinking water and still peeing, but I didn't have any much salt left in my system. So they had me shade up and get right, and then I was able to get back on the saw in the afternoon. But like you said, I mean, like, a good option too is like throwing somebody on lookout for a shift. Like, hey, you work pretty hard. It's pretty hot out here, man. Like, why don't you go, be a lookout for us, and make sure you got like enough hydration and snacks and stuff to get your body right for a shift, and then come back, join us the next shift. Like on the line.
Yeah, I think the hydration is like severely underrated sometimes. I think people don't really, especially newer people, don't realize how important it is. I always try to do my best to hydrate, because I dress like this like 24/7. So we'll be out in Arizona, and I'll be dressed in a hoodie with a hood on, and so I always feel like I can't go down, because I'm wearing this jacket and stuff, and people are always like, I don't know how you do it, man. So it's like it'd be embarrassing if I went down for heat stroke wearing a jacket, because then it'd be no fault of my own. So definitely do my best to hydrate, so that way I can show these guys like it doesn't matter how much you got on, as long as you're drinking water, you can do this stuff. So like we do our PT hikes, and I have a PT hoodie that I put on. Oh, nice. Like a hoodie, and then like line gear. It's just like I don't know, just like wearing a hoodie. It's your thing, man, which is kind of cool, dude. Like, because people, the more you're in fire, the more you're around, people recognize it. I mean, we all do in the force already. Oh, this Randy. I mean, you're a good sized fellow, so it's easy to spot you. But also like the hood on and stuff. And I remember we were talking about, and you're like, and wear the hood, and I don't have to worry about my neck getting all sunburned and wrecked out. And I was like, that's a good point, man. No, we went down to Arizona this year, and like the whole crew always talks about the hoodie, and they like never take it off. And like we get down there, and we get to like the Navajo land, and there's people like walking around in the daytime in hoodies, and I was like, I told you guys, man, it's just like you actually care about your skin, and you live in that area, especially in Arizona. Like the sun will beat you down. Like I wear a black hoodie in the sun in Arizona all day. I go home and it's bleached from the sun. Yeah. So it's like I'd rather have it do that to a hoodie than my skin.
Totally, man. Yeah. So, I had a realization on a fire assignment like that one time, and when I was crew boss for the Great Northern, I think it was when I was crew boss for them. Their t-shirts are like a dark blue, almost black, and I was wearing the same shirt most of the time, and I'd swap it out. I'd like my line shirt, and then I'd like my evening shirts, because I only had two, because I wasn't like full time with the crew. So I didn't have like a rough shirt on when we were out like getting food or around the public, but I left my my like work shirt, my line shirt, was mostly like on the seat and like in the sun. So like if I wasn't there, and then like it got like totally bleached out and like right in the middle, and I was like, I had the same realization finally when I looked at that sucker after that fire assignment. I was like, man, like that's just from the sun, like you said. What's it doing to the skin? You know?
Yeah, exactly. My dad has worked outside, and I think for a really long time he's been out every day outside. But yeah, his skin is like really dark, and it like looks really like rough and like leathery, you know. So I'm just like, and his hands crack a lot because the skin gets so dry, and it'll like crack like deep cracks like in the hands,
like bleeding and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's like things like that like aren't good. You know, I just don't want that to happen to, you know, my face, you know, or my neck like that. It's just rough, man.
Yeah, it's just rough, and then avoiding cancer and any other issues, and yeah, it ages you fast. I know, like I remember as a kid, like the big thing was like putting on oil and sitting by the pool. So like all these older people I knew, like relatives or family friends that like were doing that, like I mean, they were like my age probably now, and they looked old because they were just cooking themselves all summer by the pool, you know.
You just get shriveled up.
Yeah, man. And it was not good. And I've had it too, where it's on the river too long or something, and I wasn't planning on being or something, and I don't really get sunburned too easy because of the native blood, but even if I didn't get sunburnt, really, it was like this. It was probably some kind of degree of sunburn, but it was like this really like dark red, like a weird, and it felt weird too, you know. And I'd be fine the next day, but it's just like that can't be good, you know.
Do you sunburn at all?
Not really.
Same.
It takes quite a bit. Like I mean, it's getting more now, but when I was a kid, man, holy cow! I remember jumping on the river, and even in high school, and floating all day, and it was kind of on a whim, and everyone else got roasted, and I was fine, you know. I was like, oh, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, that's how I am now. I don't know what if it's like the melanin or in it, but it's just like like I don't. If I'm in the sun for a while, I just get like kind of darker, but it doesn't ever like burn to a point where like I touch it and it like hurts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, same. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really had that, you know, luckily. And I've seen some super white folks who get like blistered up, and that looks so painful, man.
It looks like they got cooked.
Yeah.
It's so rough. Yeah, I
So
can't imagine having to go through that, especially in fire. Like, I don't know. That would suck.
Oh, it'd be terrible, man. And then, a lot of them are trying to put on, sunscreen and stuff, and it's like, you just sweat it off, it seems like. And one of my friends, he just kept getting like, I mean, so red, and then the yellow makes it almost look worse. You know, it's like, oh.
I would always make fun of Russ because he would put on sunscreen, and I'd tell him it smells like a swimming pool. Yeah, like putting sunscreen on in the engine.
Oh,
we
yeah.
worked at the Westbrook together, but I just always make fun of him because it smelled so bad.
Oh, really? Really strong?
Yeah.
Oh.
The spray sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that stuff's got, quite the powerful scent for sure. And especially if you're not used to it, like guys like us who don't put it on very much. And But I'm kind of like you, and especially in my older age, I try to wear stuff like this and like the sun shirts with a hood. Because I'll just throw that sucker on, some shades, and I even got like this like big palm leaf hat that I have for the river now too, to kind of keep it off. Even hands, man. Like I didn't, like, one of my friend's dad, his name's Carl, he was wearing gloves when we went on this fishing trip. I was like, dang, that's a smart idea. Like, I just didn't even think about it, like, I didn't get burnt or anything, but just like still some damage going on there, getting beat up from the sun.
Yeah, man, your hands get really dry in fire, I feel like, just getting beat by the sun, but then like in ash all the time, and it just sucks the moisture out. So I always get like really bad cracks in my hands at the end of the summer.
Yeah, totally, man. And kind of along of skincare, I think also like us being a little tanner helps. Like you talk about like black folks getting like ashy, because they're getting dry skin.
Yeah,
I get that a little bit too, So it's and I thought I just had dry skin, but maybe it's just because I'm dark enough where I can see it. So like I constantly apply like lotion on after shower or swimming or even during the day sometimes. Like, and I think that helps keep my skin a little more youthful.
Yeah, no, I have to moisturize a lot too. Otherwise, I just look dirty. Yeah, because it's like super ashy on my arms. But
yeah, totally, man. Yeah, my calves can look pretty rough, and like especially like this time of year, wearing pants more, and I throw some shorts on the gym. Like, oh, geez, man, these things are real ashy. Yeah,
that's why I'm glad I have the sleeves. Like the hoodie definitely has its benefits, I think.
Yeah,
we were talking the other day about people kind of assuming things just because I dress the way I dress, and I don't really change it when I'm out in the, briefings or like in a big crew around other crews. Like, I'm not really too concerned about how I'm perceived. Yeah. We were talking about like, just being like confident in like who you are as a person, and not like, I don't know. I feel like most people that know me know that like who I am and what I'm about. And so it's like easy to look past the way I dress, but I can understand how people can look at, just this guy in a hood and they're like, it's just a kid, doesn't really know what he's doing,
Yeah, yeah, no, totally, man. And I think people need to think more like, actions, right? Like,
Mm.
I don't know. I didn't think anything of it when I met you. I was just like, oh, likes wearing a hoodie. I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, I think.
Yeah, I like wearing tight shirts. I mean, there's stuff about people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but then people get to know you, especially in the fire community. It's a big, small family, as you know, and folks listening who may not know, it's reputations. The longer you get, you're in this thing, the more people know you, and the more people work with you, and the more your reputation gets built. And it's not really on what you look like or even the way you talk, and it might be something that people point out to like be like, oh, you know Randy, he's always got the hoodie on. Like, oh yeah, great guy. Yeah, I worked with him, man. He's dialed.
Yeah.
And that's usually how it starts. It's just like whatever the thing is that's about you. Like I'm trying to think of his last name, but Fred used to be the soup on the Hot Shots. And great guy, just like full of energy and stuff, and talker. So like that was kind of people like, oh yeah, talks a lot. Like, yeah, Fred. Yeah, and just. Great runner, and one time I asked Fred about when we first went to the new Bendix Kings from the old, I can't remember what the old bricks were called, but went from that to like the digital ones, and I was crew boss in the northern, and I ran to Fred, and I was just like, Fred Thompson, I think, and I ran to Fred, and I was like, hey man, how you like them? Just like in passing, I was just gonna be like, how you like those, man? Like, I was smoke trim at the time, and we were talking about switching over to him. I think the whole jump base was switching over the next year or something. So I just like want to see what he thought about it before I got my hands on one. And dude, he gave me a deep tutorial. Like that dude knew his stuff, and I was like, oh okay. And that was like kind of my first interaction. And one of my friends were joking about like, yeah man, he'll talk your ear off, man. He's a wealth of knowledge though. And I'm actually wanting to get Fred on here. He's down in Arizona now, I think too. But man, yeah, big brain that guy. Speaking of big brains though, I was gonna mention this in the early part. Kind of works out now, but so we're talking about like Job Corps, and you working for Job Corps now, and then being a student at Job Corps, and then trying college, and you went into programming, right?
Yeah, I was studying video game development in college. I went to college after high school. I went to CAC, Central Arizona College. It's a community college out in Casa Grande. Went for a semester, and then I dropped out and went into the Art Institute of Phoenix to study video game development, because I thought that it was like, I don't know, I guess I thought that I could do school, but at the time I could barely finish high school. It was just I just didn't want to be there,
Totally.
And so for some reason I thought college would be different, but I just didn't want to be there. 'Cause, I always think like, if it was something I enjoyed, I could go to school for it, which I did enjoy it at the time, but doing it, it sounds fun. Like people are like, oh yeah, making video games, like it sounds super fun. It's just countless hours on a computer. Like you're looking at like the programming side of things, which is just looking at text and numbers and pretty much just typing all day long. And then the 3D modeling side of things, where it's just like you're making these like small adjustments to shapes using these different programs. And the digital art side of things, like you're in Photoshop and you're like doing all this stuff. And so we did this program for our game development teacher. He was like you ever play like those Madden sports games with like the football games or whatever? He was the CEO of the company at the time when they made like Madden 05 or something.
Oh, nice.
And so he was just this like big wig, like was in video game tech, and so he like did this program where he was like, everyone's gonna pitch me this like idea for their game, and then he's like, the winners, I'll invest this amount of money into you guys and let you guys create this, and then we can sell this idea to one of the big development companies, and they can take it and run with it,
Oh, wow. Nice.
Like he was trying to get everyone's like foot in the door,
Yeah, very cool.
And so we had come up with this idea for like this like steampunk game or whatever, and we put together this booklet and pitched it, and he like liked it, and so he chose one of us, our group, as one of the groups to do this stuff. And so it was me and 3 other guys, and we had myself as the creative director, so pretty much my job was just to write like and create this entire world, and so it'd just be like typing up these stories of these like fake people and this like fake world, this fake environment, and like just like
really detailed, like like what they're wearing, especially steampunk, right? Like kind of trying to paint that picture because it's not like everyday stuff,
Yeah, it was crazy because you gotta like not only but like describe a place, but like you have to make up history and like these fake like historical figures or something like that, you know, like
Yeah.
it's like super in depth, and I didn't think it was going to be that crazy, but I kind of liked it, you know, just like letting the mind roam and like, yeah, this could happen, you know, and like just like, yeah, going like super in depth.
Yeah.
But because there was only four of us and there was so much work, we'd all have to like dip into everyone else's. So we'd have to like, I'd do the programming sometimes and I'd do the art stuff sometimes, you know, just coloring in stuff that he would draw.
Oh yeah.
And then like the 3D modeling stuff, like rigging these animations, and then go back to my typing. But like, you know, just I would spend all day on the computer, and I just never had time to even play games. And I was like, that's the only reason why I wanted to do this, is because I thought that's what I liked, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, you had me at steampunk though. Like I
yeah.
dig some of that stuff,
Yeah.
man. I mean, there's some other, you know, everything's got like their different like little bridges, but I remember seeing like a photo of this. I don't think it was a real place, but it was like a reimagined steampunk style
Mm.
like coffee shop.
Mhm.
It looked awesome, dude. I was like, very cool, you know.
Yeah, like a lot of gears, a lot of like, yeah, just like
Yeah,
vents,
yeah,
a
like
lot of
bronze.
bronze.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it looked awesome, man. I dig that kind of stuff. It looks kind of old timey, and I'm, you know,
Mhm.
like kind of an old soul, as you can tell by the old Airstream, you know.
Yeah. Same. I think we were talking about like, yeah, just growing up in like a different time almost, you know.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the thing with like Native American values too, is a lot of them are very traditional, and so you grow up in that environment, you kind of keep that with you your entire life, you know. So definitely feel like I connect more with people that like a lot of my friends outside of work are you know, like in their like 50s, 60s, you know. It's just like I connect more with that because at the time like they had the same type of drive. One of my friends, he was in Afghanistan as
Oh
a
yeah.
one of their mechanics for their tanks and stuff. So we and him get along pretty well because we share the same values. With like when he was young, he just wanted to work, you know, and like he wanted to serve people almost.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I feel like my purpose is here, is just like to do whatever I can to help people out, and then I also, you know, enjoy my own life while doing it. So I think that's like pretty much all I can ask for.
Yeah, man. That's a great outlook, dude. Like you mentioned something earlier about too. Like I guess when we first started getting the story of you going to school, you know, you go to school if it's something that you enjoy and makes you happy, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's the key, one of the big keys to life that I think gets overlooked for money. And luckily, I figured out at a young age, and it seems like you figured out at a young age. I remember even being in high school, and I knew where you could go to make money, right? You go into
Mhm.
engineering, you go into business, you go into banking, all these things,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, try to figure out the stock market, all the things that can make you money, right?
Mhm.
And computer science, you
Mhm.
know, like, and but it's like, man, is that gonna be fun? Am I gonna enjoy life? You know, I
Yeah.
don't want to like dread it, you know, 8 hours a day or 10 hours depending on where I'm working, and then
Mhm.
get my little, you know, couple hours of relief when I get home, and you know, decompress and try to get my mind off that, and then go back into that the next day. And
Mhm.
usually it's, you know, some box that you're working in, and it's like, which is fine. I mean, we need those people too, but
Yeah.
that was not where my happiness was. So like I was gonna follow what made me happy, you know, and kind of like what you did too, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like I've never really been driven by like the money, because like you're saying, like in high school, it's like, yeah, you want to make money, go to engineering school, you want to do all this stuff. It's like there is definitely like really clear avenues to make money, and
Yeah.
this was never, you know, I never imagined would be one of them. I actually never even imagined this is what I'd be doing in the first place. All the things that what I thought I wanted to do, you know, making video games, is all indoor stuff.
Yeah.
I think I just didn't realize how much I liked to be outdoors, because when I was a kid, I would be outside like every day, and I'd just be wandering the desert by myself and with my dog, you know,
Dude.
just spending every day. The sun would come up, and I'd go and like run to the base of the mountain and like walk up and just kind of like wander the desert all day, every day, just kind of enjoying being outside, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I just wanted to be more of like I liked the technology, but I didn't realize that like how much I actually appreciated being outside. Um,
Totally, man.
so I think out of my two, like I call them my brothers, we were really close friends growing up. They were more like into sports and stuff, and I enjoyed playing sports, but not as much as them. And I always thought, you know, I was gonna be like a kind of the inside kind of type guy. And so now they work like just regular jobs, and then I have this job where it's like, you know, very like
Yeah, outdoors, man.
yeah,
Outdoorsy
outdoor
guy.
focus, yeah,
Yeah.
like athletic focus, you know, things like that. So it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely just took a turn.
Yeah, man. And yeah, I think you gotta explore those avenues too to kind of figure out where you want to be. Like we were talking when you're on your way here. Um, Similar, you know, like I didn't expect to even be a smoke jumper. I was just like in fire to pay for college, and I was like, it's a good way to make money. And I at the time there's so many people working. Like it was kind of hard to land a job, even like in construction or anything that these jobs that people don't want to do right now, that pay really well. So no one wants to hire a student because you got a short season, but the Forest Service would. So I jumped with the Forest Service, and then still trying to pursue a degree in physical therapy, and I think it became a doctorate like right about when I got into school. So that was like kind of my first little derailment. I was like, I don't want to be in school that long, And by the time I was graduating with my undergrad in health and human performance, I got my degree, and then I finally had time and grade to go jump. I had enough time in, so I was like, all right, that's my pursuit. That's where I want to be. And I thought it was going to be like 2 years and then go back to school for PT was like my original thought on it, and or at least one of my thoughts. It's always changing, but and then sticking out for 5 years, and then I got too sick to jump anymore and try to do structure fire. I think it'd be easier because I could control my diet better with Crohn's, which was actually worse because I was getting less sleep and more stress probably from the city fire department in Great Falls. So then I was like, well, I'm too sick to do anything, so I'll go back to school and go after my original goal was physical therapy. And like we were talking before, man, all the observation hours are in clinic. So I was working, or just sitting in on therapy sessions with a physical therapist and a patient, and man, like they weren't long days, I think I can't remember how many hours you need, like 100 or 200 hours of observation hours, to apply to a grad school. And I was about there, but I was like, man, I was having a lot of second guessing, a lot of thoughts about, like my decisions.
Yeah, it was definitely rough going to school and doing that stuff. But then doing fire, I did fire for 2 seasons. Then I got another job, like I was saying, building trusses.
Oh, yeah.
But doing fire changes your entire outlook. So when I went to do that truss job, they had this system set up where they had this stack of papers, and they'd be like, this is our orders. Like we just work on this stack every week, and then the stack gets bigger, and so they had this giant stack, and I was looking at it, and I was making these trusses, and ended up making these jigs for the different styles of truss and the different sizes, because they only made them in specific styles and sizes. And so I was like, I make these jigs, and it would make it a lot easier to make these things quicker. And so I made these jigs, and just having the experience from fire where it's like, go, 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 and like there's no downtime. It's like, well, I'm here to do a job, right? So I'm like building these trusses, and I just start banging out these orders, and the stack gets like smaller and smaller, and I finish the stack and like go and tell them, and they're like, well, we've never had anyone finish the stack before, so I mean, I guess just like hang out in the truss shop until we get another order. And at that point it just became so easy, because it's like I don't have this like giant load to do anymore. It's just like I get a sheet, finish it the same time that I get it. And so it's like things like that, though, like, it really improves your life for fire, just like job-wise, where it's like anything I do from now on is like not going to be as hard as like digging for like 9 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a good point, dude. Especially when you don't know where the end is. You're like, all right, I'll just start digging. Let me know when we're done.
Just tell me when to stop.
Oh, man, some wild conversations come out. And it's funny, the silent times, too. Like when everyone's exhausted and no one's talking, and you just hear the sound of tools. Yeah. It's like banging on the ground like some rocks. Yeah. Oh, man. I actually meant to, for the intro of this podcast, I was trying to get on project we were just digging line for some burns, and it sounded really cool. It was up here in Ambrose, and it was sounded the tools banging off a lot of rocks. And it sounded awesome, but I couldn't quite capture it right. I was like, damn it. So I was meant to go back and get that, because it's a cool sound, especially when everyone's getting rhythm. I think we only had like 15 folks that day, but you get somewhere around that number, pound some line. It sounds pretty cool.
Maybe we'll get that sound for you. We got Brennan. He's got a pretty good camera, and we always have 20 people digging line at the same time, and it's a really cool sound. Yeah.
If you guys could capture that for me, that'd be cool. I'd probably change that to the intro, because I think that'd be really cool, and kind of applies a little more to the podcast. I mean, right now it's like a fire, which I guess is all right. Like a crackling fire, which plays too, because they're just kind of fireside stories, I guess. But what I thought was cool too is like how you apply everything to your life, like you said, and especially in your current career when you're talking about fire. You do something really hard in fire, and it's just like anything, you do something really hard and it makes life easier. And it's so important to do hard things, as much as you can, and try to embrace the suck a little bit on it. But you're talking about even like with that project and having to go through all the little things, and then like something else gets added, then having to go back through everything, and,
yeah.
how you kind of take it into your fire life now, and as a leader, right?
Yeah, applying programming.
Yeah.
It works a lot with, I feel like, a lot of aspects in life. It's because like I was saying, like you write a script, right, and the way that the program actually reads is like from the top left and it goes across, right? And so when the program fails, it's because one thing doesn't match up with the syntax of the entire program. So you have to go back and find one small, minute error, and then you change that one thing and fix it, and then now all the program is doing completely like something else, and you're like, man, I got to go back and like read this whole thing again and like find these little things. And so like, yeah, like that, I feel like comes into play in Fire a lot. I think about from the beginning, top down, going through things like one by one, and like even just someone's attitude that day can change the entire program. And so having to work around things like that and make sure that you always have a solid running program of what the end goal that you want to do. And it's like putting people in spots that they can thrive and like do a good job in, you know, because it's not just like, you're not dealing with just like chess pieces, man. Like these are like people, you know, like these are like your friends, these are employees, coworkers, they're just people as well. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm thinking about that in a way where like, I know that, you know, this guy's really good at like cutting, so, you know, put him on the saw and he really enjoys doing that, you know, or like this guy really does good with teaching people how to dig, so putting him on quality control.
Yeah.
Because people will work harder at things that they like to do, you know. And I feel like, you know, when you do that for people, they kind of notice that stuff too. And so I've always been the type to think that like I want people to do a good job for me because they respect me as a leader, not because they feel like they have to. Because I feel like you get better product when people actually want to do a good job and represent well, rather than like being afraid
I was gonna say,
of consequence. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, or by fear, because fear is kind of the old school way. Like when I got in, there was it wasn't totally like that, but there was a few folks I ran into that I worked for along the time where it was more like a fear system. You know, it's like you didn't want to get out of line because you're gonna get your ass chewed, and it's like that's not good, man. I mean, there's stuff you could do to get chewed on. Like I think I can count maybe 3 times where I had to yell at somebody, you know, when I was in charge of, and it was a safety issue. It wasn't because they were not performing right or whatever. It was just because it was going to be dangerous if they didn't listen to me. I need their attention now, you know? So, like, that's the only time I raise my voice. Most of the time, I'd be like, what's going on here? You know, like, just like we're talking here. I'd be like, hey, what's up? You know, and you know, just, what's the deal? You know, like, let's go talk for a minute, you know? And like, most of the time, it was like, they felt bad that I had to drag them, you know, away from everybody and talk to them. And they almost felt more guilty that, you know, having the conversation and all it was like a check-in. And be like, man, I know you're better than this. Like, what, you know, you're underperforming, you know, you're making it hard on everybody else around you because you're not picking up your end of the deal here. You know, like you said, if someone's digging, they're not really digging and they're just in the line. It's like,
oh man, that pisses everyone else in the line off.
Yeah, man. It's like, you gotta hold up your end of the deal, man. It makes the whole system go better. And like you said too, like a quality control person who's also like got a great personality and super funny, they can really help the whole day out too, man, and get things going.
Yeah, talking about like you're pretty chill guy and like pretty laid back. So when you say something and you have that like demeanor of like, and it's serious, then people know instantly. Like same thing with me, because it's like we're both just kind of like laid back, you know, and like just really like calm with people. But when I raise my voice and when it's time to go, everyone knows it's time to go. And it's like an instant recognition, like, oh, okay, all right, guys, let's knock it off.
Yeah,
you know,
time to get back to business. Yeah, no, it's good. And then you have that like kind of balance instead of like if you're like a screamer the whole time, which I've worked for a few of those, not so much in fire really, but like in my life where people are just yellers, and a lot of them, it's because they don't know much or they have no human relation skills. You know, like, you're kind of saying too, like they're not just like chess pieces. It's you care about all those people. You spend so much time with them, so you know them personally at a deep level. You know, and so it's like, man, what's happening here? You know, and you want the best for them too if you're a good boss.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Danny and Justin, those guys were my trade instructors when I was at Trappers. So having Danny kind of be the intro, he was my like intro into fire. You know, and so Danny is definitely like a He comes off like very intimidating, you know, but like in reality, like his heart is like really good and he cares about people in the most genuine way. But he'll be the first person to yell at you and tell you to hurry up, you know, like so he comes across as like, to people that don't know him, he's like, you know, a very yelly guy, but he's like he's intimidating in all the right ways, because he would make us do bear crawls until somebody vomited, so we'd just be doing bear crawls and trade all day.
Jeez.
Just be like, getting us to puke and like PTing us just super hard and like, telling us, just kind of he'll murder us if we mess up. So things like that, that aspect of like he's stern, but like that it's not coming from a place of hatred.
Yeah, it's because he cares and he wants to make you better, and he can see the greatness in people. That's what's really special about Danny. That I think a lot of people, unless you've worked with him or know him, like you don't see, like you said, because like especially on the outside looking in, and he's chewing some ass. You're like, oh no,
Yeah.
And he's come from a pretty rough background, so you're like, oh man, I mean, he could murder me, Yeah. But he's just trying to push you to get the best for you and best out of you, and he saw it work for him too, right? Like it changed him to the better human he is today, and. I'd charge him to hell with that guy.
Yeah, same.
He's the best.
Yeah, and that's really like what I want to do is just like do the best that I can for people and not try to like no, there's never going to be another Danny, or there's never going to be another Justin. There's never going to be another. I don't know if you know Jared, but he's also been a really big figure for me in like the crew boss, hand crew foreman kind of type position. Just because the way that all these guys operate is they operate on a human basis first of like I care about these people for people, and then I feel like as long as you have that foundation of like you have to care and like genuinely care about people, not just the facade of like whatever you guys want, because I feel like that's something else that can go wrong is when you just like are too like free with people, you let them do whatever they want to do because you want to seem like you care and that you're like nice, but you get a poor quality product, sometimes when you're too lax with people, because people go out and they're like, he's not going to yell at us, like we'll just kind of take it easy today, maybe only dig for like 2 hours of the day kind of thing. So it's like, like those guys are definitely like, they have that balance of like having the basis of like, just genuine care for, it's not even just people in fire, like those guys are just like good people in general for like, all of humanity.
For the community, all of humanity. Yeah, exactly, man. And they have a standard and expectation, and as long as you're hitting it, man, world's great, So, and like you said, it's known, and sometimes they don't even have to know. Like they give you direction, and it's like that's what I expect, and you got to get it done. If not, there's consequences, which is how it should be, like you said. Because if you're too relaxed and be like, oh well, it was hot out today, and make excuses for them, you're gonna have a real piss poor crew. You're like, well, it's going to be hot on the fire line, so you got to make sure you get out there and perform, and this is how you acclimate now, get your body used to a little bit and get in shape, because, I mean, no one's in great shape in the beginning, so that project work that never ends, put a little extra effort into that, and it makes you a better firefighter.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's, at least at my point in my career, that's kind of where things are looking more towards, is like, eventually you get used to like the tactics stuff, and that becomes the easy part, is like actually fighting fire, because you do it so much and so long that like you start to recognize patterns and stuff like that. And so like recognizing fire behavior with what topography and fuels that you're looking at, just like you can almost you can make a good assumption of what things are going to happen, like and kind of make a good plan for that. But then like you always have contingency plans and things like that, but that stuff becomes like it's almost like home, because you do it so much, and so that stuff you don't have to try so hard to think about. You're just already thinking about things when you see it. But the leadership side of things, it's like all this like dealing person to person and like things like that. It takes a lot of a different type of person to do that kind of stuff. So
it does, man.
Where I was when I went into Trapper, like if you talk to Danny about it, he would tell you that I didn't say a word to anyone. Me and him would be driving along, and he'd be like, man, do you ever shut up? I'd just be like completely silent in the truck, and I would just look at him and just kind of be like, it's just like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like talking to anyone. So like going from that to like where I am now, like you can't do that in this job, because you always have to be like, especially if you want to be a leader, like you're talking to brand new people all the time, like you're meeting different overhead, and you have to learn how to communicate certain things, like your crew's needs and your crew's capabilities, and you can't be afraid to speak up in this job, at least if you want to move up,
Totally, yeah. And I think it makes it easier if you care about the folks you work for, like genuinely care, like you were saying before, because then you do want the best for them, right? If like someone's giving you an order, whether it's a DO or division or task force, and you're like, no, like I see what you want there, but I was on that line earlier, and no, that's not a safe spot. There's snags everywhere, and like if things blow up and hits our trigger point, we can't get out of there. So, but I got a plan B, we're going to go around this way and tie in here. We might lose a little bit more ground, but we'll be able to pick it up over here. You know, like kind of those kind of things. Like, you know, it's a little logging road here we can bump off of and clean up that a little bit more and have more success in the end. And you know, it's a better decision. And the guy running the show, he probably just glanced at it and was like, yeah, that looks like we can, you know, get some good work done in this section without maybe even really having good eyes on it. Maybe drove by, but that person a lot of times doesn't have time to scout all the lines either, you know. So
yeah. No, you definitely can't be shy or timid too. Like what you're saying, that situation, you know, you have to have that confidence in your own experience and abilities and your crew. And, you know, because, you know, if you are doubting yourself and you go up to them and, like, you may not even say something what you're thinking if you feel like you're not confident in, like, your experiences. Because, like, yeah, in a situation like that, and you truly feel like you know what's going to happen, you know, what bad things are going to go wrong if you do that, and you don't say it and something does go wrong, that's on, you know, you have to live with that. So, like, having the confidence to be like, yeah, this doesn't look good. So then you go up to, I mean, because these people are, like, have been in fire way longer than me, you know, divisions and all these guys, and to have to, you know, me, because I still see myself as like a, you know, almost like a, I never saw myself as like a fire guy my first couple of years, because I'd look at people like Danny and Justin. I'm like, these guys are like fire guys. Like, they have been in this for so long. I still don't even see myself like that. I'm just kind of like doing my thing.
Yeah.
But, like, having to tell somebody like that, like, listen, man, that's not gonna happen, you know.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, and that's where I think it helps having the care for your crew like you do, because it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations. Then you have a few of them, and you just it's easier every time.
Yeah.
But, like, I think even those guys who are like these, you know, fire gods, for lack of a better word, you know, like Danny and Justin, because they've seen so much of it, and you know, they've been on a lot of stuff, you know, like, and I've worked with some people who've turned some things down. Like, I was pretty fortunate to work for Mike King, who was on the Bitterroot Shots and saw a ton of fire. And you know, it's just like those guys don't really see themselves that way, though, even though the rest of us do. But it just comes, though, man. Like, the more you do it, and I remember even kind of like being on a fire, like icing a fire and making decisions, and then, like, kind of reflecting on the next day, because, you know, you always want to do, like, your own personal AER, after action review, or you know, introspection on, especially as a leader, make sure you're doing the best you can do, and that's how you improve. And so I was like, all right, how did I do? Like, as I see this fire in Arizona, you know, I had air attack on it. It was actually a Type 3, but I took it over as a Type 4, and you know, the Mesa hot shots, and I think like 7 engines on there, and a contract engine that didn't have a radio, and so they're in a bad spot for a minute. And just like all the things, like, you know, reviewing in my brain, and you know, how I could improve on it, and you know, how it went. And there was a few things where I was like, that worked out really good. A few things I was like, I wouldn't do that again. You know, like, I was trying to hike the whole fire because I was trying to get a good accurate acreage and see the whole thing, because there's some ravines and stuff, and this thing's like 1,000 acres, and I'm trying to get around it real quick. And from the road, you can't see like the big deep gullies. So I was like, all right, I can see it up there. So I'm thinking like 200 acres. I'm like, I can just whip around this thing in Arizona, you know, lower elevation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got halfway around that sucker, and luckily the soup from Mesa showed up. I'm blanking on his name, great guy, but Mesa hot shots are awesome. They snagged me up, and they're like, I think they threw me a Gatorade and like a Starbucks little caffeine shot thing, and they're like, hey man, you're doing a great job, but you know, you don't really need to hike this thing. I was like, I figured it out. But you know, like, and they gave me a ride back to where everybody else was, kind of like our little like mini camp was set up, you know, and got to tie in with all the other incoming resources back to the main road and run the show from there. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't have left that spot that I was originally at if I was to do it again.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing to have too, that self-introspection of just like looking at things, kind of going over them with yourself, not even just for fire, but just life in general, like every little thing. And I think that's kind of what another aspect I think that kind of fire almost like forces you to have is that introspection. So like I was on a fire in Oregon this year that I IC'd, and I had a trainee, and she was I think she might have been like, you know, mid-30s, you know, kind of. And so like as an IC5 trainee, I kind of figured that like she had been in fire for a long time, longer than I have.
Especially that age.
Yeah. And so I was just kind of like, yeah, you want to just like, you know, run the show and like just, you know, come to me when you need. Because, like, yeah, she's like way older than me, been in fire for way longer. So I'm not going to be like, you know, helicoptering her. Like, you know, like I was just like, yeah, like whatever you need, just let me know. And so we get there, and like, it's like in this like draw, this kind of like wet drainage. There's like a creek at the very bottom, and I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, oh, kind of, you know, just like, you know, putzing around. I'm like, well, whatever you want to do, I'm going to go check out the fire, you know? So she has the crew start cutting out this road, and I go and get to the fire, and I'm like looking at it, and it's, you know, in the Willamette. So it's just super steep country. Like I get to the end of that road, and it's just a sheer drop off. I'm like looking down in there, and I'm like, man, like I don't really know how I feel about like hiking the crew down here, but I'll let her like make the decision, and kind of steer her in that direction of like, let's see like what it looks like first before we hike people down. And so I go down in there, and it's just burning through this like heavy like hard litter, leaf litter,
Yeah.
and it's already like 2 acres at this point, and it's just like going straight up that hill, and I'm like, let's just get everyone off that road, and so we get everyone off there, and I'm like, not even hiking people down here just because it's so steep. And so we transfer it over to a Type 4. I get a ship on it first, and the ship starts doing buckets, and just having the ship do bucket drops on it, and then I transfer it over to a Type 4, and he says the same thing. He's like, yeah, we're not getting people in there. It's just so steep, and the hike in and out, and if that thing were to go crazy in that draw, I just didn't want people in there. And so hearing him kind of like mirror those same thoughts, and then it went to an IC3, and the IC3 was trying to hike all these crews down in there.
Yeah.
And so we go, and like this engine from Arizona comes, and they're talking to us like, we don't want to go down there, man. Like, it's like the fire's like all the way up to that road now, and there's like fire up above, and there's trees coming down, and it's already like super steep. And so we go down there, and collectively, like all these like hand crews, there's 2 hand crews and 3 engines, and we all tell each other that we were thinking the same thing. And so we go over to the IC, and we tell him like, yeah, we're not going to go down that piece of line, dude. And he's like, goes and looks at it, and he's like, yeah, I can see. He's like, there's a lot of shot crews that would even turn this down. And it's like, why would you even tell us to do that before you actually went and looked at it,
Yeah.
So having that thought of like, I talked to him after that fire went big and it went to a team. But yeah, like being the first like IC on that thing when it was still, under 2 acres, it's hard not to be like, what could I have done in that moment to keep it small from like blowing up, but talking with people and like asking people questions of like, did I do something wrong? Because it's, being there first, you definitely can do something about it. But he was just like, yeah, man, like I think you did the best you could, and like keeping people's safety in mind too. But yeah, just not being afraid to like ask for any kind of feedback.
Yeah.
Because like, it's good to hear that you messed up, when you really did mess up. So
Yeah.
just not being afraid to ask for any type of feedback from people like that.
Yeah, and like in the fire community, especially, they were talking about building those slides, like the slideshow. So like when you do show up on a fire like that, you're like, all right, like last time I was on this fire, I did this. It was fine, everybody's safe, but it blew up, and I got, from the transitioning IC, like the IC3, if they had like some good plan, you'd be like, all right, yeah. He said, and especially local, right? Like if it's a local resource, like, oh, if we run into this is typically what we do on it, because, and typically I imagine, I wasn't there, but it sounds like what I'd do is just like, yeah, keep everybody back, hit it with some air resources, and try to buy some time, and see if you can hold it up with some buckets, and see what happens. And Willamette's pretty timbered too, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, air tankers aren't going to do a whole lot, for you on that stuff, and especially like you said, all that ground litter, so it's going to scoot on you, and even bucket drops can only buy you so much, and when it's hot and dry, and I mean, sometimes you gotta let it go and try to catch up on the next ridge, kind of deal,
Yep. Yeah. Close it. Big box it. Really.
Big box
that
it.
Was, that's something that's like way out of my scope right now. It's just like I don't even know where to begin, because, it's just like, I just don't even know where to start with doing that.
Yeah. No, you did the right thing, I think, man. And like, someone told me a long ago, and the old saying is like, sometimes the best action is no action, and I think that's exactly right in that scenario. And it's hard, especially if you're initial attacking it, because. And from an outside resource, like it's not in the Bitterroot where our home is. It's like, in the Willamette. So it's like, I wouldn't know the roadways really that well, and I'd have to get a map. And usually, the incoming resource, especially when a team gets involved, it takes a minute, usually like a shift before they really get engaged, because they're getting all the intel and data on the thing, and figuring out like big boxing and talking to local resources, like, does this road exist? Because you get the old map that, has a road that maybe isn't a road anymore. You're like, is this good? Is it drivable? Can we go up here? Is that a good place to hang it up? And what are the winds doing tonight? What's the weather patterns looking like? And so you're getting way more intel when you're on a team typically coming in to take something over, versus you coming from a different forest and just trying to do the best you can. And I mean, most of the time I think it just ends up like you did, like in those situations, just like you try to knock it down a little bit, and then,
just hand it over.
Yeah.
Well, and I took EMT training for a while, And that was a big thing that they were saying is like, you know, the whole purpose of an EMT is like you're getting this person to higher care. You're just transporting them there. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing with an IC at some point is like you can't put this out with what you got and just get it over to someone else, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Try to, you know, like do the best you can and just hand it over, you know, like that's a really good analogy because, I went through EMT as well and really can't do a whole lot, you know, it's like you said, package the victim and get him to higher care in like a hospital or something, and a bigger team, right? You know, just like in fire. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, but I forgot to mention at the beginning of the podcast that it's Day of the Dead. Yep. And that's why I brought the little sugar skull out for that. And Dia de los Muertos. Is that how you say it, right? Yeah. Yeah, man, what a great day. And the reason why I bring it up, and not only because it is the Day of the Dead, but because me and Randy were talking before we got on here, and just like the like how it is such a great holiday, and the importance of it, right? Like we were kind of talking. I'm trying to put it in better words, but you know, it's a celebration of death, you know, and loss of loved ones and people we cared about. Oh, my lid wasn't on. I was like, man, my butt's getting wet.
Spilled coffee yourself.
It's like a little electrolyte mix. I was like, it's a little cold. I was like, oh man, something's going on here. I'm talking about death, and also my butt's cold. But so you know, just like the celebrating life, right? Like even, you know, like the afterlife, you know, with loved ones we lost, and the tradition that goes along with it. And we were talking about like you know, a lot of tribal, you know, folks, or you know, our ancestors, where there's a ceremony involved and not like more of a funeral, and so I just kind of want to give a shout out, I guess, to the day and you know, the appreciation I have for Day of the Dead.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah, especially with the traditional values and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of people that I've had that have passed, and like, I think it's a good thing to like remember these things in a positive light and kind of like share that, and like, it just doesn't do anything to dwell on it and see it as a bad thing, because it's gonna happen to everyone, you know. And like, I think it makes it easier knowing for the people that you know when you go, that if you want to be remembered in that positive light as well, and you know, just doing your best to just maintain like a positive attitude and everything. And like, if you I don't wish anyone to be like, you know, super dreadful when I go, you know, like I just would rather have things be more uplifting. So like, just maintain this thing, because it's like it's a lot about like community, like you said, and like just appreciating life in general. Because like we were talking about like how like dreary, you know, some like wakes and things can be, which is funerals, like and I understand, you know, it's a sad thing, but I think the Day of the Dead, it just like it envelops a lot of like togetherness and appreciation for the moment. As we celebrate it where I'm from, and the Onalatham people, we do, I can't remember the name of it, but we'll make a lot of food, and like we'll empty a building that everyone has, and pretty much every house in the village does it. And it's almost like a second day of like trick-or-treating. So we'll all go out and put food in this house, and so that way the spirits can come and like just like have this feast, you know. And so it's just like this whole like empty table set up for the spirits to come and kind of like eat that food. And so it's usually like you make the past family members, your late family members, their favorite foods, and you get them their favorite snacks. And so, you know, it's always a time where like we go and like get all this stuff, and you know, you put it all out for them, and you leave it, and you like shut all the blinds on the windows, so that way they can walk around freely outside. And so it's like a day where we all do that, you know, and just kind of like remember them, and you know, you eat their favorite foods with them. They go and have their things, and then the next morning when everything's done, you have all those rooms, like everyone has did it, those rooms with the food and like snacks and stuff. Well, that next morning, it's like a second day of trick-or-treating, so all the kids and stuff go around, and they'll open the doors to those rooms, and everyone can go in and take whatever snacks they want, because it's usually like, you know, everyone's like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're guilty pleasures, you know, like, you know, somebody likes honey buns in their life, you know, so you put out some honey buns for them. It's like things like that that people enjoy. So we put that stuff out for them to go and enjoy in the afterlife, and then the next morning everyone can come and grab that stuff. So
yeah, man, I think that's powerful, man. I think that's really good stuff, because it's, you know, like as you're probably preparing it and thinking about it, like oh yeah, Uncle whoever, you know, like you said, the cinnamon buns or honey buns or whatever it might be, and so you're thinking about them, right? And then like you said, it's a good memory, right? Like you said, you don't want people really like depressed and mourning about you. You want people to remember the good things, and that's the same with me. It's like you know, when I go, like you said, it's inevitable. We're all gonna die in this life. So it's like, man, I want someone to like celebrate it. Like think about you know, the dumb stuff I did and laugh about it, man. I don't want people just like sad, like, oh, it's empty now. Well, you know, it's gonna be, it's gonna happen. So like, not dwell on that part, you know, dwell on the good memories, like fortunate, right? Like, fortunate for this, I'm having this conversation, getting to hang with you, you know, and like the times we get to share with each other, right?
Yeah.
Like thinking about that instead of, you know, the negative about the emptiness, because, you know, if you have belief in whatever it might be, you're probably going to see those people again. I do. I refuse not to, because I want to see those people again. So that's part of the reason why I believe that there's an afterlife. And so I think, yeah, and then having the tradition of leaving the food out for folks is great too, you know. And I actually want to go dive a little more into traditions, but now we're about an hour and a half into this sucker, and I, you know, told the family I'd be in to get some dinner going with them, and I don't want to keep you all night, man.
No, you're good. Yeah, we'll definitely have to maybe have another conversation sometime, but yeah, I think it's a good thing. Like, we'll just take that moving forward. You know, everyone just like appreciate what you got in front of you. It's really hard to get to that point where you can do that on a day-to-day basis, but you know, just taking a step back and enjoying like the little things, like, you know, you're driving and you see like a dog on the side of the road, just like kind of walking around. I usually would just get out and go pet the dog, things like that, you know, just like enjoying these tiny moments in life. Otherwise, I think it'll fly by.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, hitting the pause button a little bit, like you said, going and petting that dog. And I think dogs are 99% just little joys that, you know, they got put on earth for us, you know. So taking that minute, and I think it reminds us, like a dog, you know, my dog will come bug me, you know, if I'm like sitting on the couch or something, and then like I engage with him, and, you know, like kind of get off of whatever I'm on, you know, like phone or even watching a game or whatever, you know, tying with him again. And yeah, I try to do it too, man. Especially, we all live in beautiful places, most of us, you know, like we're really fortunate to be in Montana. So like, I'm always trying to like take the dirt road, or, you know, take in the scene. I mean, every sunset's different, you know, so I try to get as much as I can out of them, you know, because you'll never see that sunset again, you know. So, man, I think that's a good way to end her, man. I appreciate you coming out, Randy.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Luke.
Yeah, anytime, dude. Yeah, we'll have to do another one, because like some of the stuff that, a little teaser for the next one with Randy, is that, you know, some of the spiritual stuff that we're talking about that you experienced and that I experienced, even like dreams and things that we're talking about. We'll have to dive in on the next one on that one, because I definitely want to talk a little more about that, because that's some powerful stuff too.
Oh yeah, and I got those scary stories to tell you too.
Oh yeah, that'll be for the next one. Oh man, yeah, well definitely we got 2 more episodes then for sure, because we got the scary stories for Halloween, and then just more of the cool, like kind of spiritual and, you know, dream state stuff that we were talking about before, that me and you've experienced, and that, you know, I believe that everyone's capable of experiencing. It's just kind of, you know, opening the door to it, you know. But yeah, thanks again, man, and thanks to everybody for tuning in.